Well, we're gonna get started, guys. Is that all right?
Yeah.
We're gonna get started. They'll work their way. They'll work their way in. Yeah, just to honor everybody's time who is here on time. And inevitably, sometimes we have people join us. But welcome.
Just like this.
Yes, exactly. Come on in. Make yourself at home. If you want to grab anything to drink or some samples of some things, feel free. There's
Okay.
stuff in there, but
Thanks.
it'll also be there after.
Hi.
And what we do is we will hold this, and I say this to remind us too, because we get really passionate, we will hold this to an hour. If you have to leave before then, that's okay. But we stay and do Q&A as long as you need. Because sometimes what we say sparks thoughts that you just need answers to. And some of the best information actually comes from your questions, because it's guiding really what's on your heart and what would feed your need. Possibly more than what we're led to share. So we're gonna give you a high level on nutrigenomics. And I don't have my name tag on, however, I do have a necklace with my name. I'm Angie. If I haven't met you before, it's a pleasure to meet all of you, and hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to each of you before this is over. But I'm Angie Huntley, and I have been representing this biotech company, which is what we're gonna talk about today, for about 9 years. It'll be 9 years in one more life. So crazy. So for almost a decade, I've had the privilege of being able to represent Lifevantage, and Lifevantage has pioneered really and specializes in a science called nutrigenomics. And nutrigenomics is the formulation of nutritional components that would look like supplements. So the FDA actually considers them supplements because what would constitute a supplement would be a formulation of nutrients, of nutritional components, which is exactly what we are, except for our function is different and our result is different than a supplement. So where a supplement gives you what you're lacking, and some do really good at that and some don't, we are activating or turning on something in your body that's been off. And it's profoundly different. It's different in function and it's different in result than giving yourself something that you're lacking. So what are we turning on that's off? Your DNA, actually. And so although you may blame your DNA for so many things, only 20% of your DNA is actually active and working and doing something. 80% of your DNA is dormant, meaning like it's just not functional. And it probably seems counterproductive in our biology and in our creation, but there's many things that we're familiar with that aren't functioning at full capacity and aren't functioning at the capacity of their programming. And our bodies are just one example of that. But we see it in even the things that we use today. So in my cell phone, I have incredible programming in this cell phone. And it's not functioning at capacity right now. In fact, even when I'm working from my cell phone, which I do, and I have a great job that allows me to work from this, even if I was on a beach in Aruba, which is the goal. But I have colleagues that have built their business in Hawaii on the beach, but they live there, so they have that luxury. But even if I was working and utilizing so many aspects of this, emails, social media, texting, recording, I still wouldn't be utilizing this to the capacity that it's able. And so even right now, I've got a great picture of my husband and I. It shows me the time, it shows me my cellular provider, how much battery I have. So it's doing some things. It's not even doing 20% though. So it's sort of an analogy for this, but not perfectly. But you would say that the majority of its capacity is not working right now. And the reason it's not working right now is just because I'm not turning it on. But all I have to do, if I wanted to utilize one of its programs, like a flashlight, it's programmed to actually turn this little bulb on. It's programmed to do that when the power is on and when it's fully charged. And the way we look at our DNA, the way we look at our health and our health trajectory, so often we will just think about ourselves in this capacity. If I were to say about my flashlight, I guess mine just doesn't work because it's not shining right now. And my mom's isn't shining, and her siblings' flashlights aren't shining, and my siblings' flashlights aren't shining, so I guess it's just not meant to be. I'm gonna have to deal with the fact that my flashlight's never gonna shine. And we talk about our health that way. My mom died young, her mom died young. my mom had depression or breast cancer. I'm sure that I'm going to have breast cancer. And we fall in line to some of that hereditary programming. But the reality is, someone can say to me, no, dude, your flashlight works. You just need to know how to turn it on. So there's a switch right here, and if you just touch it, then all of a sudden it does what it's programmed to do. And it does it really well. And that's what we do through nutritional formulation. In a sense, that's what nutrigenomics is we are able to formulate nutrition to turn on programming switches in your DNA that are really miraculous, because your body is miraculous. So when we talk about this and some of the stories you're going to hear, it's going to sound too good to be true. And I get that, because 9 years ago, I sat in a room similar to this, and everything sounded too good to be true. But what I've realized through the things that I've seen and the lives that have changed through nutrigenomics is that your bodies really are that good. Like, you were created in a too good to be true fashion. And knowing how to tap into that creation and utilize it at a greater capacity is what we're all about with nutrigenomics, if that makes sense. So almost 9 years ago, my family was really not open to this. We were in the midst of a health crisis. I am the mother of 5 young men, and at the time we were bringing into our family our 5th son, who was 15 at the time and had spent his first 15 years through cyclical, heinous trauma that just battered him in a deeper way than most humans could take. And that was the first 15 years of his life, and he was joining our family, and so you can imagine that was a lot. I was executive director of a nonprofit in downtown Kalamazoo, and you can imagine that was a lot. And my family was opening a franchise restaurant, which you can imagine was a lot. And one of my youngest biological sons, and my youngest biological sons are identical twins, and one of my sons, Gabe, and I always get emotional when I talk about this, but Gabe's in the room right now, so I may get even more emotional, but this is Gabe. Gabe's 20, but when Gabe was 10, he missed almost all of 5th grade. And he came down with like non-functional symptoms that we were not able to find the answers to, and he could never make it through a day of school. While his identical twin, who was a mirror image of him, was great. So he always had a mirror image of what life should have looked like for Gabe, but Gabe was too weak and too sore and just too ill in general. And we had spent 10 months looking, and I'm pretty versed in holistic modalities and natural ways. And in my understanding at the time, I felt that we had tried everything. And everyone I talked to had an answer. Try this, try this, try this. And I was sick of that. I don't want to hear one more thing because nothing helped him. And my doctors, his doctors, said, try this, try this, try this med, do this diagnostic. And he had been poked so much that I literally was even at my wit's end with that. And I thought, I cannot take him to the lab one more time because it was traumatic. It was traumatic for him. And so I was kind of done, but I still had a really, really sick kid. And my dear friend Chanel, who's also in the room with the cute striped pants over there, my dear friend Chanel, who we had an established relationship, and I think that really mattered. And I knew she loved my family. I love her family. And she reached out a couple times and told me she felt she had something that could help Gabe. Was I open? No. I kind of couldn't believe that my friend was like, so I was torn between humoring her. So if you're here humoring someone, I'm so glad you're here. They love you. She loved me to like keep inviting. And so if this is like your 5th invitation and you're just here to shut your friend up, that's great. It changed my life. That's literally what changed my life, because probably about the 3rd or 4th time, and her and her husband both had tag teamed me, and I knew they both cared about me and my family. She said a couple things that got my attention. And they're things that I hope get your attention to, is that first of all, Chanel is owner of Gull Arbor Senior Living in Richland. It's an adult foster care home that I knew through a ministry capacity at the time to generally care for end-of-life patients. I knew that most of the people at her home were in hospice and needed round-the-clock care, and their days were numbered. It was end-of-life care. Usually their stay would be months, not years. And she said to me a few things when I finally was just like, what? She said, the overseeing physician at Gull Arbor has recommended that I put every single resident on this natural protocol. And I just thought, what natural protocol? Because I've seen it all. And she said, so I researched it for 8 months, which I know her still to be ridiculously diligent. And so and I love to research, I'm a nerd. So, if I pour into research, she'll triple it. She's just that diligent. And I also know how much she loves all the residents there. Her senior living center is like a home out in the country. It's not an institution. It's just beautiful, and everyone there feels like family. It's the most beautiful organization outside of what we do here that I can imagine. And she said, I researched it 8 months. I've never seen enough literature on a natural product to research 8 hours, 8 days, 8 weeks, let alone 8 months. It just doesn't exist. So I knew she wasn't blowing smoke because she's not a liar. And I had to kind of combat that too. I know she's not dumb. I know she's not a liar. I know she cares for us. And she said, the research is so compelling, Angie, that I had to try it on every resident. And she said, I tried it on every resident and I'm seeing people come off meds. And she listed a few of the cases and they were dramatic. And she said, and I see people come out of dementia, people who were nonverbal are speaking. And my dad was nonverbal. My dad passed about almost 20 years ago from a neurological degenerative disease, and he could not speak to us for years prior to his passing. And that got my attention. And she said, now I have people coming out of hospice. And my dad was also on hospice for several years before he passed. I thought, what? And she said, people are getting so well that it's a smarter business expense for me to pay for every resident to be on this as long as their families agree. And that blew my mind. She said, because they're more well. It's just, it makes more sense. My staff, I have less turnover if they are taking care of people who are easier to care for. And face it, people are easier to care for when they are more well. So she got my attention. I thought, okay, I'll listen. And so I sat down, I heard all the stuff that sounded too good to be true. I was very, very skeptical. And as I listened to the information, I actually got a little mad because my son had suffered for 10 months. My dad had suffered and passed years before, and we had nothing. We had no avenue for my dad's care. There was literally, once it took years to find a diagnosis, they said, you got a diagnosis, but now you go home and you deteriorate until you die. There's nothing we can do. And so there was anger that rose up in me that there could have been something. I was upset that I hadn't heard about this earlier, and I thought I have nothing to lose. So I got some right away, and I gave it to Gabe, and I gave it to myself, and I gave it to Deshaun, the three of us, because we didn't have legal rights to Deshaun yet. I couldn't take him to get medicine even if I wanted to. I didn't have the right to do that. But I could give him this. And he had no sleep patterns. He had PTSD. He had never had medical care. So his body hurt in so many different ways that you can imagine if you've never, ever had care, parental or medical. And so the three of us, with me, I didn't think I had anything wrong with me. So I'm just like, I'll take it because I'm the mom. I'll give it to Gabe. Zero expectation really for any of us because I had cupboards full of natural supplements. And I was band-aiding things, but did they ever shift me into a different trajectory? Never. I had never felt that from a supplement. Even with my issues, I've had IBS pretty extreme my whole life, which I just thought was a way of life for me. And I probably had 20 supplements on my shelf that I would buy that were supposed to be good for IBS, and I would take them as needed. Never saw any change with that, but I felt like I was doing something. So I spent the money at 5 different places, $50 here, $100 there, $20 here, and I took all the things, but I had never seen a shift. So the next day, Gabe went to school, and he made it through a full day of school with 3 days left till the end of the school year. And then the next day he went to school, and then the next day he went to school. And before my eyes, I watched my son get his life back. And without an answer of what was going on in his body, I saw the disease manifestation process halt. He was 10 years old, and it could not gain any ground in his life anymore. And it's still one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I don't know how much of it you even remember, but it's so profound. I can't ever unsee that. And Deshaun leveled. Deshaun started sleeping. Deshaun had no night and day shift. There was no circadian rhythm whatsoever happening with him. And he started sleeping. He would actually, as this massive young man who's 15 that looked like a man-child, would use words with me like, I have joy. Like, it's a street kid saying that to me. Like, I have joy and like I feel peace. And all the things that were going on mentally and emotionally for him, which was a lot, from anxiety to suicidal ideation, just leveled. It was so beautiful. And then after 4 months of me, as you can imagine, not paying attention to myself whatsoever, I just realized when my friend called me and said, hey, do you need to reorder some of those supplements? I'm like, you know what? I'm pooping. Like, I don't think I do. I think my body's working. And it hit me in that moment because sometimes we have such a slow trajectory to wellness that it's not this like narcotic moment of I'm better. It hadn't gained my attention until I realized I haven't reached for any of the supplements in so long. And in my mind right that moment, even though that's what life had been like for me, so I didn't really think I had a problem. I just thought that's what it was like to be alive as Angie, was to have this horrible cramping and digestive issues all the time, no matter what I did. All of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I'm healed. Now I can't say we heal, treat, or cure anything, but you're gonna hear from what we share today that we address what's underlying to all things. And so I'd like to just explain that a little bit by using this 4-legged stool, because we have a focus within Lifevantage, because as you can imagine, your DNA has so many different options for us. So what do we target and why do we target it? Now, I tell the story of the three of us in the beginning of Gabe and Deshaun and myself because nothing's related. What we didn't know at the time is that Gabe had an autoimmune disease trying to manifest in his body, and it was type 1 diabetes. We stopped that manifestation, but in my ignorance, several months later, I did take him off of it because I just thought, Gabe's well, we didn't know what it was, so I guess everything is okay. And then several months after I took him off of it, he snowballed into a pretty dramatic, life-threatening diabetic ketoacidosis. And there's so much more to that story, but we'd be here all day. I will answer questions if you want to know more because we're kind of an open book with that. But from a diabetes trying to manifest in his body to emotional and mental and trauma coping mechanisms for Deshaun, so very much brain and nervous system, to gut. They all seem very unrelated, but we all took the same thing and we all transformed our health, kind of like got our life back in different ways. And how that's possible is 60 years ago, a team of scientists, instead of starting to look at what the medical system looks at, and what the medical system looks at, which we need the medical system. So if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you work in any part of the medical system, we appreciate you and we're grateful for you. And he needs an endocrinologist. He's a type 1 diabetic. But his endocrinologist is a perfect example of what I'm going to say. The medical system manages the diagnosis. His endocrinologist manages type 1, and we need that. Our life is managed by type 1, so we need help with that. But if you think of any diagnosis that you have, and in this room, inevitably, there's probably several of them, and you think of any diagnosis you don't want to have, and in this room, there's probably dozens of those, and think of the diagnoses that people you love have. And all of those diagnoses, just for this analogy, are going to be represented by the top of this stool. So whether it's type 1 diabetes, whether it's IBS, whether it's depression, anxiety, cancer, Alzheimer's, acne, lupus, MS, arthritis, depression, you name it. It's represented by this. And in medicine, we manage this. We have a med for it, or we have a surgery for it. Sometimes we have stretches for it, but we are managing this. What we do differently is this team of scientists 60 years ago said, hey, instead of focusing on this, let's just focus on what we all know as scientists. We all know as scientists that the cells in your body, when you have any one of these things going on, your cells all have the same dysfunction. And it doesn't matter what you name this, the dysfunctions are the same. And this dysfunction and this dysfunction and this dysfunction all hold up this. So one of those dysfunctions is called oxidative stress. It's the reason why we feel that we need to eat foods rich in antioxidants. It's the reasons why we want supplements that are great for antioxidants, or we drink tea that is like so antioxidant rich. But the reality is, even though that's our focus, is, obviously oxidative stress is bad, so antioxidants would be good. There is no amount of external source of antioxidant that can ever do more than just kind of tickle our oxidative stress problem. Oxidative stress is this issue of free radical buildup. Free radicals are the bad guys. That's what oxidative stress is. And every single day you're alive, so today more than yesterday, your free radical buildup within your cells increases by 300 sextillion. And that is 23 zeros. So in a normal aging process, even without disease, you're increasing oxidative stress at such a monumental rate that having 8 pounds of blueberries, which I wouldn't recommend in one day, but that's, 8 pounds of blueberries in one day might give me a few thousand antioxidants. A few thousand wouldn't hold a candle to 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000, and definitely not sextillion. So these scientists thought, man, if there was a way to hit oxidative stress and get rid of this, if we could knock the support of oxidative stress out from under cancer, Alzheimer's, acne, infertility, painful menstrual cycles, any possible unwellness you can think of, supported by oxidative stress. So their heart was how can we knock oxidative stress and make it a non-issue? And the answer is, like my cell phone, you have programming in your body to actually manufacture at such an incredible rate those super antioxidants, at such a rate that taking them externally, it can't even compare. It's 50 trillion plus times more potent than trying to get it from an infusion, a supplement, a food, or a drug. And we do that by formulating something that turns on a pathway in your DNA responsible for that manufacturing. And you have a pathway in your DNA called NRF2. And NRF2, when that's turned on, starts just we have a phrase that we say, take it to make it. We take this tablet and it turns on, like my flashlight, it turns on your NRF2 pathway, and your NRF2 pathway is what just starts making what you need. And there's nothing else that can catch up. It's so much so that it literally knocks this leg out from under the table, out from under this. So now this can't really function in the same way anymore. So this wouldn't have the same properties. Because if I sat down on this right now, it would hold me. But if we knock a leg out from under it, it would no longer have that property of being able to hold me and my weight. I would tip over without that leg. And what Lifevantage has done is they've looked at all the different pathways in your DNA that will address what's underlying to all disease. And there's a lot of them. Believe it or not, there's a lot of dysfunctions in our body and in our cells, in every single cell, that we can see that are as supportive to disease process. Is that a totally different concept? It's a little hard to absorb, isn't it? Because we so much think of diagnoses. So I want to just show you what happened was 40 years into research, this team of scientists at the University of Colorado in Denver found out this NRF2 activator that turns on the NRF2 pathway. They studied it on humans. This normally doesn't happen, so you can be skeptical of this, but 100% of the humans in the study, 100% efficacy is oddly strange, lowered their oxidative stress at least 40% in 30 days, 70% in 90 days. That's also oddly strange. Nothing else does that. And so how profound is that? Well, it's mind-blowing. Most people would, wave the BS flag on that. And institutions did. So Wall Street Journal published an article on the summary of that study. ABC Primetime came in and did an investigative report. And then because that aired to millions of people, we weren't a company. It was just a group of scientists in a lab looking for what is going to take away the hold that disease has on us. And institutions all over the world started paying their own millions to study our product. So really, really great that you don't have to believe me. You can look at people who would make more money if they proved us wrong and see what they said. So I don't know if you've seen the ABC Primetime. I'm going to show you a 2-minute clip of it just to kind of give you an idea of how profound that NRF2. And again, the NRF2 activator is just the beginning.
Normally, oxidative stress, measured by those T-bars, increases with age. But in Dr. McCord's tests, taking just one pill of Protandim a day reversed that trend for everyone at every age, even for an 80-year-old.
They all are reduced to the level of oxidative stress that one would expect, frankly, in a newborn or a very young child.
Back to the oxidative stress levels of a child? It sounds too good to be true. Will Protandim work on me? But what about my progress? After nearly 2 weeks now, it's time to get my results. Dr. McCord calculates the numbers. The result? My level of oxidative stress has declined dramatically.
45%, that's excellent.
Just look at where I fall on the graph, before and after.
Which, if extrapolated back, is the level you would see in a newborn baby.
Have we turned back the clock? Well, maybe not on the outside, but deep inside within my cells. Yes, indeed.
Would you suggest I keep taking this supplement?
I would.
And so, ancient Eastern healing and modern Western medicine may soon be working together. High oxidative stress is associated with more than aging. It's been linked to hundreds of illnesses.
It's at the very center of many diseases: liver disease, diabetes, emphysema, asthma. I've studied all of these: strokes, heart attacks, even mental disease. Yes, depression, Alzheimer's disease, depression. But we do know that oxidative stress is part of those disease processes. And I don't want to wait until I'm 80 years old and find out that I should have taken it.
What's intriguing about that is that age-related oxidative stress measurement can't be deciphered between an 80-year-old and a newborn. So my mom is here, she's 80, she's been activated for 8 years. And you can kind of tell by looking at her that clearly something is different with this 80-year-old. But if we took her blood and we took my blood and we took my grandson's, her great-grandson's blood, who's almost 4 months, we would not be able to tell the difference. And actually my grandson is NRF2 activated too. So we all have very, very low levels of stress oxidation, which is incredible. So I mentioned these things. I mentioned take it to make it, and that's kind of a new concept that we want to just reiterate and kind of say over and over again, because so often people look at what's in our products. And if you take our product to your doctor, it's not going to look special. They're just going to look at the ingredients and be like, so? I mean, in this product, and the one we just showed you, turmeric, ashwagandha, green tea extract, milk thistle, and bacopa. And they're supplements, big deal. But the microdosing that we have and the way they're combined when those plants were harvested, we have 13 patents, 6 international and 7 domestic, that protect how those are formulated to create what it does. And more than what it is, I mean, those are really great ingredients. So what it is awesome and special. But what it does, nothing else can do. What it does is life-changing. If you threw all of those ingredients in a pot and said, well, I'm taking those, so I'm doing the same thing, you're not. It would take you 66 tablespoons of turmeric every second of every day to come close to what this does. And obviously that's impossible. And in the same way as if I offered you a chocolate chip cookie, you wouldn't say to me, well, you know, I've already had eggs, flour, sugar, and baking soda today. I don't really need that cookie. You'd understand the concept of when you take ingredients and you synergize them the right way, they create something new and wonderful. And in the same way, that's what we do. We create something new and wonderful. And the way that that cookie activates your taste buds in a different way, we activate a way for your body to exponentially increase its heal and repair mode. So I want to introduce you to my colleague and dear friend, Hannah Brower, and she's going to share a little bit of her story. It's huge.
Do you want my mom to share first?
Do we normally go your mom then you, or you then your mom? It's been a while,
I've done
hasn't
it
it?
both ways, so whatever you're feeling, go. We all tag each other. So.
Let's go you next. So I'm going to tell people who you guys are though. So they are mother and daughter, which is awesome, but they're also colleagues and both colleagues of mine. So Hannah is an RN and she worked for years in the medical system and now has transitioned into really representing and sharing nutrigenomics with people. We do attract a lot of medical professionals, and even this morning I was listening to a doctor's talk, full of PhDs in that talk, and they all have become consultants for Lifevantage. And what they have said, and I think that's probably Hannah's heart too, is that being able to share this extends their reach so much further. And sharing this with people all of a sudden allows them to touch dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, and then hundreds, and then thousands of people that are all understanding activation. And they said, and in my practice, I maybe on a good day, 12 people a day. And so the being able to get to the core and to even help them with the results that they would have in their practice or in their clinic. She's a mother of 2 and just an incredible, incredible advocate for health and wellness. And Chanel, like I said, owns Gull Arbor Senior Living, and she's 3rd generation adult foster care home. She was raised living in an adult foster care home because her grandmother owned the adult foster care home that she owns and runs now. So her experience not only with end-of-life care, but with people who have multiple diagnoses. Because when people are there end of life, they're a lot of times there with many, many different disease processes taking hold of their body. And so she's just a wealth of knowledge that way. She's the mother of 7, grandmother of 4. I always feel like I'm missing.
5 now.
5 now, yes.
Yeah.
5 soon.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I'm teetering on that one. So grandmother of 4, homeschool teacher, and just if she wouldn't have kept on me, I wouldn't have gotten my son back. And even his girlfriend wouldn't have ever heard about it, and has had wonderful effects. And you see that ripple effect of just being able to share something special. So I'm going to have Chanel share a little bit of her story and a little bit of the science, and on we go.
Yes. So it did start probably 10 years ago, and Dr. Hyde came, and he knew that I just had a passion. So growing up in an AFC, I had been around a lot of death and a lot of sickness, like most my childhood. And when I was 18, I was ready to get out of it. I was ready to go to college and do something totally different. I wanted to help people. So I decided I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to do occupational therapy, where I just get to help people get better and deal more with younger people too. And in all of that, we ended up getting married, having 7 children. Then I wanted just to be a mom and to be homeschooled, so I kind of stepped out of that. But then my sister was very, very sick, and so my mom was like, I either have to sell this or you have to take over. And I wasn't quite ready to take over yet, I didn't think, but I thought, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it differently, and I'm going to get people better. Like, I have to be able to get people better. I just don't want to take care of someone sick and passing. Like, I wanted something more than that. So I stepped into it, and I started doing all this research on supplements, similar to what Angie did. Like, she was in a spot where she was desperate to find something for Gabe. And I was the same way. I wanted to help them. This was golden years. It was supposed to be golden years, and I wasn't seeing that. And not only was I not seeing golden years, I was seeing people calling me for younger and younger and younger, like 70s, and then started 60s even. I had some calls on 60s, which was incredible to me. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. We work so hard all of our life, and then we're empty nesters, and we can't enjoy that anymore. And it just seemed like a robbery to me. So I started studying all these supplements and stuff, and I put all of my residents also probably on the same supplements that Angie did. And I didn't ever see a shift. Now looking back on it and knowing what I know, they weren't absorbing it. When your pathways aren't working and your cells are sick and they're full of toxins, you're not absorbing the stuff. So really, I was just really making their pee expensive. And I was feeling it myself. And so it just wasn't working. And Dr. Hyde, he knew my passion, and his passion was the same, which I loved. That's why we connected. And he flew to Hawaii and was talking with a good friend of his who was a PT, and he was started using this, and he heard about it, and his people were like repairing and getting better at like an exponential rate. And so he went out there to see what this was, and he came back to me and he's like, I think we have an answer here. I think, like, I haven't had time to study it all, but from what I see and what I've heard, like, I want to see what this would do, and I think it's right up your alley. So when he told me about it, I'm like, similar to Angie, like, looked at it and saw supplements. I saw what was in it, and I didn't understand the microdosing. I didn't understand activation over supplementation, because you never hear that anymore. So I've been through school and everything and never heard of activation. And so we moved into that, and I thought, okay, I'm going to study this. And I did. I studied it for 8 months. And the fact that there was 8 months to study gave me like unbelievable confidence that something was happening here. When they told me there was 31 peer-reviewed studies, I was like, that's impossible. I had studied pharmaceutical meds that doctors had came and wanted to put my different residents and patients on, and I didn't have peer-reviewed studies. Like, can you imagine that? You're taking a pharmaceutical synthetic med, and it has been researched and studied by the pharmacy or by the pharmaceutical company that developed it. There should be a bell going off in your head right now, a siren even going off, like something's wrong with that. And they're putting out, the people who manufactured their drug is putting out their own studies, and that's it. And even that, there's not that many studies. You would be amazed at how many people they actually tried it on before they just put it out there for people, like, we're just gonna do this. It's alarming more than you think. And so when I started researching this and found out there's 31 peer-reviewed studies, self-funded studies from other companies that happened after the primetime investigation came out. So they sent them in. That's another kind of a key factor that got my attention. Big Pharma sent them in to debunk this. They just wanted to prove it wrong, because the incredible health that can happen from reducing your stress oxidation 70%, that would make any company, especially a pharmaceutical company that wants to pump meds, that would make it alarming to you. So they sent them in to do this, and it was debunked. But not only was it debunked that it wasn't debunked, they wanted it to be. It was proven accurate that 31 institutes and universities renowned started studying it. So that's what when I said I went through 8 months of study, that's what I started studying. I started studying all of these things. And several of them got my attention, but where's the aging one?
On the far left under Ohio State is National Institute of Aging.
Yes. That was one of my first ones. And when I studied that, I was like, oh my goodness, it increases lifespan 7%. So that got my attention. I'm like, okay, like increasing lifespan is good, especially when you're starting to get people in their 60s and 70s. And I went through so many other ones. Washington State actually put out a study that this is the best therapeutic and preventative in the history of medicine. So that got my attention. And they're, again, self-funded, peer-reviewed study, apart from the Corporation of Lifevantage studying this. So after all of these, I started my residence on it. It was just a no-brainer. And myself, because I had a heart condition at the time, I actually delivered my children on a heart floor of a hospital. So because they're like, at some point, you're going to need heart surgery. Probably as you gain weight or, as you age, different things, you're going to need it. So the Ohio State University that did a heart study was very intriguing to me. So I thought, I'm going to start this too. So I started it, and within 4 months, I did not have any heart palpitations anymore, and I just felt great, so energetic. Later on, I ended up having an EKG when I got pregnant for my 7th child, and I had a normal EKG, which was crazy. I've never had a normal EKG in my life. So that was huge for me. So fast forward to my residence. I started them on it, and I just started, like Angie saw with Gabe, just kind of waking up and feeling better, and just slowly, and they're how much older than Gabe was? Gabe was 10. We're dealing with 70s, 80s, and 90s at this point. But they just started feeling better. And they were asking for Tylenol or Norco, any of that, a lot less for their joints and stuff. Then about 3 to 6 months, the doctor started lowering their blood pressure meds, because their blood pressure was getting lower, and they were like, what's going on here? So and finally they were off blood pressure meds. And it continued to see this. And I'm like, we are getting people, wow, like this is like, I think what God intended, like golden years. And so I continued on it, and some of the stories that I can tell you was life-changing for me in the way that I've been in this for how long? Since I was 8 years old. I never saw somebody get on hospice and get off hospice. But I was starting to see it. I had people coming to me that were hospice, had so many weeks or months to live, and after taking the product that I bought for them each day, they just got better and better and better, where hospice came in and said, we're going to have to release them. Like, they don't have enough criteria to keep them on hospice anymore. And that was huge. And one gentleman in particular came to me. He doesn't have any children, but he had a wife and she was with us, and he went to a rehab because he was taking care of the wife and he fell and broke his hip. And he went into rehab, and they were just like, there's nothing we can do. Like, by the time he came to me even, he was skin and bones. He had sores all over himself. They're like, they're going to, this is a couple, they're going to die together. His wife was already also at my place and said that she was passing within a couple weeks, and he was trying to take care of her at home and not put her in a nursing home. And he came to us, I started him on these products, and he just started, first of all, he started healing. The sores started healing. What you'll find with this is that your body has its very best MDs right inside of it. It knows what's going on in your body, so it repairs what needs to be repaired first. So we don't all have the same experience when we get on it. We've had people that got on it and they had their back pain went away. So they went and told their friends, like, my back pain's gone, this is so great. And then they got on it and they're like, I still have back pain. Like, what's going on? But then we found out months later that they were in stage 4 kidney failure, and now they are functional, normal kidney. So their body knew, I'm not worried about your back right now. We need to attend to your kidneys. Like, when you activate your body and the beautiful computer that it is and how it was designed, it knows what's going on and it will start fixing that first, which is wonderful. So that's what happens with all of them. I kind of start understanding what's going on. Is there a deeper issue here because a back pain isn't going away or something like that, what's going on? So his name is Don, and he came and I started him on this product, and he slowly, his body just started healing, like the sores on his body started healing. And then he couldn't walk, and it was painful for him to walk. We put him on PT because we got him off hospice. His vitals all got into normal ranges and everything, so then we started him on PT. But his body had kind of atrophied because he had been in a bed for so long at a rehab place that just, I won't get started there, but they just didn't do their due diligence either. But they were just like, just take him to an AFC. Like, he can't get better. He's atrophied. And so we were like, okay, so we started him on collagen and we started him on the NRF2, and it was painful. It was painful. We had to give him because he just wanted to give up sometimes. I'm like, it's because you're using what you haven't used in a while. Like, sometimes it's a painful process to get back to healing. It doesn't mean that this isn't working. It doesn't mean, it means it is. You're starting to move. And slowly he started to stand. Then he started taking steps. Then he was using a walker and walking all over the place. Fast forward to today, he drives again now. He drives to Ohio to see his older brother, 2 years older than him, so 94 now. And he has a car. Like, it's crazy, and he's doing so well. His wife, who came to us, who was worse than him, who only had a couple weeks to live, lived actually a whole other year. So they got to be in my place for a year, and she did pass a year later. It was the most peaceful passing, too. But they got to be together and talk all the way to the end, and he stayed with us. And he's still with us right now. He probably could go back home, but he's like, I wouldn't make food for myself. I don't know how to do laundry. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So he stays. But he's doing so well. And even right now, I have a group full of people that, it doesn't look like an EFC. If you walked in, we had to build a garden this year, a raised garden bed, because the residents were like, we want to do stuff. We want to, like, they feel good. They want to get out. So they're actually gardening. They're growing vegetables for me because I don't have any time. So I'm so thankful. So I built this big garden thing, 15 foot by 10 foot, that they can walk down, and it's raised so they can pull the weeds well and everything, but it's still, they can do it. Like, it's crazy. I've not seen this type of thing. This was not the AFC that I grew up in. This is different. They want to fold their laundry. They're doing their laundry. 3 of them have cars there now. So I'm actually having to put in a parking place at this and extend the driveway, because people are they're defying the odds of things. And I'm getting people, it's so rewarding to me. Like, if I could shut my place down because people could stay at home, that would be ultimately my dream. Like, that would be wonderful. People should pass at home. People should live their golden years and do the best they can. But it doesn't happen. They are here, and we do the best we can as like a second best place. But we have so many people in the past 2 years that have come to me from rehab that said they were here, they can't do anything for them. They're not improving whatsoever. We can't do anything. Mary was one of the people that came to me last April. She had a spinal surgery from the top of her neck to her tailbone, and she had been in rehab from February to April, and they're like, she's just not getting better. Even her incision isn't healing. She's just laying down all the time. She can't get up. It's too painful to move. She just needs to be in AFC. So her husband started looking, and he found us. And when she came to us, I immediately started her on the collagen and the NR2. Within 1 week's time, the incision that they couldn't heal in those 2 months was healed. And she was standing without so much pain that she couldn't tolerate it to stand, which was wonderful. In 30 days' time, because I got her the last week of April, by the end of May, she was ready to go home with her husband. He could do the care. Now, I wouldn't have sent her home by herself at that time, and he was older too, but he was there to help her and kind of be with her and stuff like that. But she was at the point that she could go home. Like, she was walking, she was moving, she was bending, she was dressing herself, taking herself to the bathroom, doing the minimum, necessities that you would need. Yes. So, and she went home. It was wonderful. We've had somebody that came to me just last October that was dementia based and had prostate issues, was on a catheter, all of these kind of things. He lived up in Mystique, and he came. We started him again on the collagen and the NR2, and we cleared up the bladder stuff. There wasn't blood all the time in his bag, and they could finally, change catheters and that kind of stuff. His dementia started improving, where the family was like, he can come back home, like, we can care for this, like, he can come home and live. And so he went back home. There's numerous stories, but one of the biggest ones that I want to share is because it's so special to Angie and I. It's because Angie's dad died of supranuclear palsy, and it is a vicious, horrible disease. It's MS on steroids. You lose all muscle. Angie could tell you a little bit about what her dad was like, but he didn't have, do you want to share a little bit of what it was like?
Yeah, just on a high level, he, one of the first things that happened is he lost muscle control of his tongue, so he couldn't speak. And then he lost all muscle in his face, so he couldn't give us a facial expression. And also the muscle to keep your eyes open. He couldn't open his eyes. So we lost all communication years before he passed. Also, that disease, you're at risk of board falls, just like these falls with no bracing. So walking without assistance wasn't really an option. And even him feeding himself was difficult because he couldn't open his eyes to see. And he couldn't ever tell us his needs. So it was very, very cruel, I think, him not being able to see or speak. And then his death was a very long, brutal, quite a violent death process as well, very, very medicated with morphine. And nobody knows about that disease. It's usually really, really rare and nothing you can do. And I've always wondered, I wondered how this would affect it.
Yep, and so I had never experienced it either, but
Oh, and he was 66 when he passed, too, by the way. That's a factor here.
About 7 years ago, I got a call for a lady named Dolores, and she was doing the same things. She was doing these brick falls back, and they're like, she's just not safe for her to be at home anymore. She's diagnosed with supranuclear palsy. This was before I met Angie, so I didn't know about her dad, and I didn't understand really supranuclear palsy, so I did a real quick, research of it and what it is, and I could tell that it was going to be harsh. But I had seen so much with NRF2 that I'm like, let's try this. There's just nothing. I wasn't willing to cross anybody off at this point, just from what I've seen. So when she came to us, I immediately started her NRF2, and she was doing the brick fall or the board falls, when she came to us, and they just kind of slowed down. She wasn't as often. She felt strong to get up. She was walking a little bit faster. I wasn't seeing a decline. I was seeing a stop of the progression, similar to what Angie described with Gabe. And then all of a sudden, I started seeing it getting better. Like, she was walking, and she was even like, I don't need help. I can walk to the bathroom myself. And we're like, no, you have this. And she's like, I'm fine. I'm not going to fall. Like, we have orders that, we don't want you to fall. Let's just walk beside you. It doesn't hurt. We don't want you to fall. So we did this fight with her for a while because she was just feeling so much better. She started reading, and she was never lost the ability to feed herself. Like, it was not the progression that we saw. So that Angie had seen in her dad. So she went back to her neurologist a year later. He was surprised that she was still going and even could come to him. And he's like, this disease is not curable. There's nothing you can do for it, so I can't say that you're in remission or anything like that. I definitely recommend them still walking beside of you and stuff. You still have this. I'm not really sure. It's for some reason it's not manifesting as fast as normal, but you have this. And so she came home really upset, and she was feeling good. So she's spunky, so she was trying to sneak to the bathroom real quick herself without ringing her bell or letting anybody know. She just wanted that independence back. She felt good. And so we catch her
In her
real quick,
90s.
and
She's in her
yeah,
90s. That's
she was
like a 30-year
91 even,
difference.
and
Yeah.
she had diabetes really bad too. We were getting that under control also, and needing less insulin, and it was just easier to manage her diabetes. And so we were taking her to the bathroom still and doing all this stuff. Fast forward to a year later, she is like a feisty one. She's just moving around with this walker, and even a few times she tries not to use her walker anymore and get rid of it. I'm like, no, Dolores, you need this. But she was doing all of this stuff. So she went back the next year, and he's like, I can't explain this. Like, there's no remission for this. There's no cure for this. All I can say is you have no markers for it. Yes, you can, if you want to walk alone, you can walk alone. If you want to, like, I can't explain it to you, but you have no markers of this disease, but it doesn't go away. So, maybe all of a sudden something will trigger it and you'll pass, from it. Well, 6 years later, she was with us for 6 more years. And the morning of her death even, she just kind of, she was sleeping more, she was eating less, which is what we see in the dying process when you're activated. It's not the similar dying process that I saw, all growing up, where people filled up with inflammation and, death can be a violent thing, rolling and turning them and trying to get the secretions to dry up and different things like that. And it can be 2 weeks and just long and painful, painstaking for the families to even watch. And that's not what we see whatsoever anymore. We see people just staying alert till the end, eating less, and sleeping more, which hospice wouldn't consider that's transition, which now that I know what this is, I can see it as like, yeah, I think she's gonna pass soon, and they're looking at me like, you're crazy, I need to school you on hospice. And it's like, on my hospice, this is what it looks like. On activated hospice, this is what it looks like. And sure enough, that morning she got up and she came out, she goes, I just am so tired. I don't feel like eating this morning, I'm gonna go back and lay down. And she went back and lay down, and she died in her sleep. And that's kind of how we see it. We've gone in before where somebody ate breakfast and was reading a book and was talking to us. We went back to get their tray, and they passed while they were reading a book. Like, their whole body just stays working at capacity and doing so well until all of a sudden it's just like I said, when I told you guys, your body knows what's going inside, so it knows it's all getting tied together, and so it will stop eating, it will tell you to sleep more, so it's preserving, because it will fight to live as long as it can. But then all of the organs just shut down. It is the most, from what I can tell you, it's just a biblical death. Like, if you read it in the Bible, and he went to sleep, that's what I'm seeing now. It's just, there's not morphine on board. There's not, when we get hospice on board, they want to come in and immediately start on morphine, and I'm like, is she in pain? And they're like, well, no, I don't see it, but that's our typical protocol, that she is going to be in pain, and I have to fight them on, no, she's not. She's fine, she's not in pain. And this is, I have to give them criteria. This is when you can start it. And they'll just kind of roll their eyes on me, but some people are starting to get it. I have hospice nurses now, they're like, I need to know more about this. But it's just different. It's different. And I've got 6 people right now, and 2 people that are just in the renter apartments right now that don't need the care level. And I've started them right on too on the NR2 activation so they can stay doing well. And so that's what my passion is in doing this and getting up. Yes, I'm busy, 7 kids and a 24/7 business and stuff. But my passion is to go around and share this to people, because you aren't going to hear this. The truth is, this should be taught in med school. Mm-hmm. It should be taught. People should know, because you will go and you'll find people will give you diagnosis at the doctor's office. Oh, she has mitochondrial dysfunction. Oh, she has stress oxidation, is rooted in this disease. But they don't understand that there's a pathway. Through pesticides, through pollution, through the things that we are getting right now, even newborn babies, you wouldn't believe their amount of stress oxidation, mm-hmm. which you would think don't have any. They have a great amount more than years ago. Like, just in womb even, it's crazy what we are getting. And if you can activate that pathway, and just incredible things happen. So it should be taught. Pharma doesn't want it out there, and you're right, Angie can't say heal, cure, or treat, and I technically can't say that word either because I don't have the rights to the word. There's actually Pharma has bought the rights to those words, so we can't say those. But what I can tell you is that what I experience with so many diseases at my place is that it's healed, cured, and treated them. And that's the best word to describe it, although I can't say that.
We can say, one thing I kind of revert to all the
Restore.
time is we can heal the cell, and there isn't anything going on in your body that isn't made up of cells.
Yeah, we restore wellness.
So, what's that?
We can say we restore wellness.
Yes. Yeah.
Restore wellness, yeah. So when your cells are sick, you're going to be sick.
Yeah.
But when your cells are well, they repair things. So it's just, it's a totally different.
Can I clarify something
Yeah.
here? The pharmaceutical companies have bought the rights to
They've
those
trademarked.
words?
Yeah, they trademarked the word
those
heal
words.
and cure.
Yeah.
Heal and
And
cure.
treat.
And check.
That's insane.
It's a little.
As a matter
sideways.
of fact, when this was done, and it didn't turn out the way they wanted to with primetime investigation, it was actually proven that it does do what it was said. They immediately tried to regulate turmeric so that only doctors could prescribe it. Thankfully, the Senate
Turmeric.
stopped that.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've gone to extreme measures, and they tried to buy this from Dr. McCord. I looked into that too. Dr. McCord thankfully wouldn't sell it. As a matter of fact, he even looked at them and said, I know there's been cures for cancer. I know there's been cures for Alzheimer's. And you guys have bought the rights to them thinking, people have sold you these things thinking that it was going to help and you were going to do great things, and you buried it. And they have. They buried things. So thankfully, Dr. McCord is a Christian. He started based on, I believe that God knew, and he's grown it. They microdosed it. It's not the same, like Angie said. It's the difference of taking flour, eggs, and sugar, or a chocolate chip cookie, brought together. It's those ingredients harvested at just the right time and completely organic and microdosed. It took 40 years for him, and he even said in another class that he was taught that it should have taken him like lifetimes to find this pathway and how to activate it. It took him 40 years, and he's like, I give the glory to God. He knew what was coming down the pathway for us, and he just helped direct me to find this pathway, because I shouldn't have found it. It was like finding a needle in a million haystacks. And after 40 years, he did find it and how to activate it. So it is here, and it does work. And this is how we have to tell people. So I share Angie's absolute passion, yet at the same time joy, yet at the same time anger, because this is how we have to find out about it. This is how we have to share about it, is doing things like this. And there's even doctors that won't know what it is. But we have peer-reviewed studies showing that it raises glutathione 300%. We have peer-reviewed studies showing that it reduces stress oxidation 70% in 90 days for every mammal. We're talking animals too. And it's 100% efficacy. We have those studies. They're here. And so if you take this to a doctor and you say, look at it, and he looks at the ingredients, he's like, yeah, go ahead and take it. It's not going to hurt you. They're all good supplements. No, that's not exactly it. If he tells you to stop taking it, then you can ask him, hey, would lowering my glutathione 300% be a bad thing? Would raising my stress oxidation 70% be a bad thing? Those are the kind of things that maybe you can ask the doctor, and then he'll be like, oh, no, yes, you don't want that. We want this. People are spending $1,000 of getting glutathione transfusions. And it doesn't do what ours does. It raises it 300% and keeps it at that level. So it's huge. So I want to turn this over to Hannah. I've shared several. I'm happy to share anything else. Or you can answer questions with her. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll just try to wrap up quick, because as you can see, there's just so much information, and we do have so many stories that it's really hard to put everything in an hour. And I'll have Hannah chime in too with any questions you guys may have. But I just want to share. We've shared a lot on NRF2, and we didn't stop there. We addressed the other legs, the other dysfunctions within the cells. And we're still going, because there's more. Your body is made up of complex systems, and there isn't just one thing going on when there's a disease process in your body. And I think that somehow where our mindset is indoctrinated with this is causing it, so do just one thing. And our body has just too much intertwining. Everything that's going on in your body affects everything. So what we activate, everything we activate affects everything. So with NRF2, while we see effects on dementia and MS and fertility and migraines and celiac and diabetes, because that thing affects everything. All of our activators are that way. So we activate another pathway called NRF1, turns on the body's ability to build, strengthen, and multiply your mitochondria, which is responsible for your cellular energy, the energy it takes for your body to heal. It's a really, really big deal. And when we talk about these activators, we do it differently. We formulate to activate more powerfully than any food, drug, or supplement, and I just have to clarify there, because broccoli itself is an activator. So someone could crush up dried broccoli, put it in a capsule, and say, this is an NRF2 activator. But broccoli does this, and we just knock it right out. So there's a difference in potency. So if someone says, oh yeah, like I know another NRF2 activator, you don't know one like this. There actually isn't one that activates to this degree, and that's how we do everything. NRF1 the same way. We activate the NAD pathway, which increases your body's ability to produce and multiply sirtuins. You'll increase within 100% your first 24 hours on it. Sirtuins are responsible for autophagy, and that's the turning over, the cleaning out of the cell. And that's why people are doing sauna and cold plunge and fasting. But you are gonna have to eat, you're gonna have to get out of the tub, and that process is gonna stop. And so you can stop, start, stop, start. But I'm activated in a way that my cells are always in that autophagy process. We activate, I'll move on to some of these. We have an activated collagen, that's the collagen Chanel spoke of. And you may have been taught that collagen is hair, skin, and nails. And you may have been taught that, yeah, I take a supplement of collagen, but I don't really feel any different. Well, collagen, and there's 28 different kinds of collagen, is the most prominent protein in every cell of your body. In your brain cells, yes, in your skin cells, in your heart cells, in every connective tissue, which means every organ. So your organ health depends so much on collagen, as well as pain factors. We activate the body's production of collagen, increasing its density by 100% in every cell in the first 8 weeks. So there is nothing else that does this. This is not your collagen, your Costco collagen. It is not comparable to any other collagen supplement on the market, because we activate the production, we activate the protection. We actually activate the genetic pathway to turn on and regulate that keeps your body from losing collagen at an excessive rate. And it produces, in that process, super antioxidants similar to NRF2. And when we put these two together, we started seeing radical things, like Chanel was seeing at Gull Arbor. What I see with my clients, I have an 80-year-old client who took these two for chronic pain, and I didn't know she was in congestive heart failure and only had 25% heart function. And her heart function doubled from 25 to 50% within 6 months of this duo. Things like that were happening, and so we did an in vitro study on what's going on with these two together. This is so powerful, but something else is going on, and something else is going on. Together, they regulate 3,000 survival genes that get dysregulated. Genes that are responsible for cancer tumors metastasizing. Genes that are responsible for autoimmune processes and literally will reset the autoimmune system. Do I think that's important for my type 1 diabetic son who has an autoimmune disease? Absolutely. That's just one genetic pathway. Another genetic pathway that we regulate is the IL-1B gene, responsible for the beta cells attack of the pancreas and diabetic processes. Those are just 3 of the 3,000 that they regulate. So we see, I have a 70-year-old autistic man who is nonverbal, who started talking at 70 years old. And that's the regenerative process that's happening in the brain cells with this combination. And what we see on the outside, some of our products seem really cosmetic. And you probably can understand, because skin is an organ, and skin also is affected by stress oxidation, but this is also what's happening to my congestive heart failure client's heart. So this is what you can see that's happened in the skin. Externally, that's what's going on internally in your organs, in the brain. This is a colleague of mine who is a 70-year-old PhD of pharmacology, lost 50 pounds, and this was what her legs looked like. She's been on all of our activators. She's on our scientific advisory board. She added the activated collagen when it came out. 30 days later, this is what her legs looked like. But that's why also her pain levels went down, because this is what's happening to her joints and her ligaments. We have an NRF2 activated formulation that and actually that's what you were trying out there in the different color crafts. And we focus on neurotransmitters and brain health, neurological system, and nervous system. So while this is an investment for me in my brain health, also for my clients that might have autism, ADHD, it's just a no-brainer necessity. And you can see, this is one of my colleagues' nephews, started NRF2 and Axio, and just even seeing the difference in his handwriting within 2 weeks, having that combination of the NRF2 and the Axio drink, and what that's doing and helping his brain clarity and brain function. We activate the body's ability to burn visceral fat. Visceral fat is the dangerous fatty liver fat, heart disease fat, and we do that naturally. And we have a huge line of products. We have an NRF2 activator that focuses on pets, and it's formulated for smaller pets. I give, like my St. Bernard, I give them human NRF2, but my smaller dogs, they get an NRF2 activator called Pet Tandem, because I can break it up. And we've taken that formulation because so many people were giving our NRF2 to their dogs, their cats, their horses, and seeing as mind-blowing things as we see in humans, we see with animals. I have a dog that doesn't have seizures anymore. I have a dog that Lyme disease and her heart murmur don't show up in her labs. And I have a dog that's just going strong after ACL surgery and not needing a second ACL surgery on her other leg. So in our long line of products, our most recent release is an activated GLP-1. And GLP-1 gets a lot of notoriety today because pharmaceuticals are calling their weight loss drug GLP-1. GLP-1 is the name of an essential hormone in your body that gets very dysregulated with exposure in our world. It's a necessary hormone, but it's a necessary hormone in your gut-brain axis that needs to play well and nice with other hormones. It's not a standalone hormone. Just addressing GLP-1 is, I don't know, like me wanting to get into shape and only working my right bicep and thinking not about my legs, not about my arm, not about my abs, not about my rear, but just my bicep. And so GLP-1 is important, but what we do with this is we don't give you peptides, because GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide. But that's your hormone. You make that. You should be making it. We should not be depleted in it. If you're taking the drug, you are very depleted in it because your body isn't making it anymore because it's receiving a foreign source of it. But we activate the genetic pathways that not only regulate and manufacture this GLP-1 hormone, but also the other hormones in the gut-brain axis that are really as critical as GLP-1 and equally special. So as we see all of those hormones get regulated, and that's our heart, is really we're activating several of those hormones to play nice with each other. When they're all regulating and balancing, there's healing and there's a sustaining that's happening. And we see things like blood sugars regulating and brain health increasing, heart health increasing, pancreas health increasing. And your GLP hormone is made in the L cells of your gut. So we really have to get the gut healthy for this activation process to even occur. And when people do this, we see 100% retention of muscle mass. In fact, we usually see increase of muscle mass. And so we see people lose weight without losing any muscle, and usually they're increasing muscle. But sometimes we see people lose no weight, but their inches have gone down and their muscle's gone up because Christy looks amazing, and you really haven't lost that much weight, have you? But
I go between 2 pounds, and it just won't, I can't get past it.
But what about your muscle?
My muscle went up, according to my scan, but my scans show I've lost probably almost 10 inches total.
Yeah, so
since I started it 6 months ago.
We're focusing on the wrong things. Yeah, if we're focusing on the wrong things, if we're like, well, I only lost 2 pounds, and I go up and down, so I'm quitting. That's what we've been taught. But when we look at whole body, 10 inches, I'd rather have 10 inches than a number on a scale, personally.
Yeah.
And muscle is incredible. What's happening with the drugs is people are not only losing muscle, they're losing bone as well. And we're seeing a lot of unhealthy side effects where we're not seeing side effects. Our side effects are, losing weight, metabolic health balancing, labs starting to get in order. And we're seeing the food noise shut down. What were you gonna say? Oh, sleep. Yeah, I mean, I'm on it, and that's the first thing I noticed is my sleep is so crazy good. And granted, it's combining and synergizing with all my other activators that I take. So full disclosure, not just taking that, it's combining with everything else. But I sleep so ridiculously. My hormones have balanced even more than they have on my other activators. I've had a huge decrease in old injury pain. There's so much, and for me, it's just the mental space and not having the focus constantly on food and certain cravings. And so you'll see anything we have people who really don't need to lose weight. This is my colleague Sean, he didn't need to lose an ounce. We would have looked at him and said, you don't need to lose any weight, but he wanted the health benefits of his hormones being right. I mean, who doesn't want everything to be in line in their body? Mm-hmm. And his muscle mass increased enormously. Whereas Shauna has struggled with weight her whole life and tried every fad diet only to always feel discouraged and like she failed. And she had just this steady average of 1 to 2 pounds a week. I mean, my husband looks like a totally different person. Mm-hmm. He looks like half the body to me, and it's just been steady, 1 to 2 pounds a week. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but just looking at him, and I'm not measuring him, but just looking at him, I'm like, your body has totally transformed. And for Shauna, the big thing was the mental. Like, she's not craving, she's not feeling like she's failing. Her body is drawn to movement. Her body is drawn, when your body's cooperating and like with you and for you, you find that you're craving things like movement or exercise or broccoli instead of some of the things that you were always going to in the past. And so that's really, really incredible. And I just lastly want to share with you, and I'm sorry we went a little bit over before we hit any questions, is just like with the collagen and NRF2, we did an in vitro study on the effects of our mind-body GLP-1 system and its combination with NRF2. And what we found is profound. We found that when you take the two together, and you don't see this separately, together they activate 4 new antioxidant pathways in addition to what you were already doing with NRF2. It activates 9 more metabolic pathways, fat and fatty acid pathways that have to do with your metabolic health. And that's a buzzword right now. Everyone's realizing that most of our issues are stemming from metabolic dysfunction. And so having 9 more pathways on your side that just go, instead of being like this, we're just gonna go, think of like tuning an instrument. That's what's happening. And the biggie for me, and again, why I'm really passionate about my type 1 diabetic sons having to take this, is that there's 22 new pathways in the combination that are activated, that are their sole function in restoration and regeneration of organs. Which organs? Every organ. The leading cause of kidney failure is type 1 diabetes. So am I invested in his organ health? Extremely. And I don't want him to go blind, and I don't want him to experience heart failure. And so those 22 new pathways, in addition to our other activators, to me is priceless. And so when I look at my body, it's not so much about weight loss, even though that's so great. We should be able to be at a healthy weight. It's all the other things that come along with it. And if you struggled with weight loss, there is a reason. And for me, it may be different than my husband. And that might be different than Christy. Like, we all have different underlying things, but when, like a symphony, we can make every instrument, instead of just one, come into tune, our bodies start working for us and healing what's at the root of that metabolic dysfunction and the reason why we're holding that weight. And is that a super quick fix? It's not. It's not. Your body takes time to heal. I mean, our shortest studies are 8 weeks or 12 weeks. So when someone goes on this and they think, oh, if I don't feel it right away, I'm quitting, this isn't the product for you then. You do need a narcotic. You need something different. You know, maybe Ozempic is the answer. But this is a building of health and healing. And your body on average takes 12 weeks to heal. If I sprain my ankle, if I broke my arm, I am not gonna expect to get that cast off in 1 week. And so we give your body what it needs to not only heal, but to do so stronger and better than you can without it. Okay, any questions? Because I know we cover so much information, it's kind of eyes rolling back in the head with the new science.